Coming up tonight, traction in Detroit's bankruptcy, election spotlight on the 4th Congressional District in mid-Michigan, and orange is not the new black if you're in jail in Saginaw. We'll explain that. It is all coming up right now on MiWeek.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Hi there and welcome to MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Christy McDonald. Another big step in the bankruptcy this week. The retiree vote is in, and we will look at tensions in the debate over water shutoffs. Plus, election 2014, a look at the race in the 4th Congressional District and the amount of money involved there. There is also cautious enthusiasm for the new stadium and residential plans in Detroit. Also coming up for you tonight, orange is not the new black if you're in jail in Saginaw, why pop culture is influencing the sheriff there. And Congressman John Dingell, the EPA, and Kim Kardashian. Why they all collided this week. That is coming up for you. But we do start tonight with a closer look at what happened this week in the bankruptcy case in Detroit and a report on how feasible the city's plan actually is to emerge from bankruptcy. Joining me now is bankruptcy reporter Sandra Svoboda from WDET Radio, a part of the Detroit Journalism Cooperative. Sandra, welcome to MiWeek. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's take us a little bit through the nuts and bolts this week. Explain for us, first off, the significance of the pension vote that came in.
It's a big deal. It not only gets the grand bargain money to come in for the pension funding, but it also gives the judge an indication that the pensioners are willing to support the cuts that they're going to take in this.
And this is something that we've been waiting for over the last couple of weeks and something that Kevin Orr had been pushing and almost kind of doing a PR campaign to make sure that he got that vote.
A big PR campaign. Let's remember the ballots went out in early May. They were due back in mid-July. And a couple of weeks after they went out, we started seeing, the town hall meetings so that the pensioners could get information about what their vote meant, what the cuts meant, what they would really be facing, and how the balloting would work. So yeah, right there, the end of May, the beginning of June, we had the governor signing the bills that brought in the state money for the grand bargain. We had the big 3 auto money announced for the grand bargain. And then we were all waiting to see how the vote would be.
Can you give me an idea of what the breakdown was for the vote and really what the turnout was, I guess?
Yeah, the turnout was about half, which, as many people have pointed out, is much better than we do in many elections around here, especially primaries. But overall, of the 32,000 pensioners that received ballots, it was about 49% overall. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm kind of thinking of that because there has been so much conversation about this and how it affects people and what their lives are going to be like in the retirement. 49% maybe takes me back a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's, might be, I have not seen a breakdown on where the ballots came from. In other words, if people out of state that weren't able to get to the meetings, that weren't able to get more information, just didn't feel like they understood it well enough to vote. Or, let's face it, that was a really tough vote to stomach. You're voting for cuts for yourself, for waiving the rights to litigate the bankruptcy or the emergency manager law, cuts for your fellow retirees, or facing the uncertainty of maybe even bigger cuts. I mean, King Solomon comes to mind in many cases for this.
So tell me, what was the breakdown then for the vote? It was still an overwhelming majority.
Overall, it was about 80% passed it of those that voted.
Are there still holdouts in this situation? And what does this vote really mean for other creditors now as we're looking down the line towards the trial in August?
Right. So in bankruptcy, we have the very inelegant term of cram down, which means the judge can take the plan of adjustment and and what the city's proposing to pay creditors, and he can force it on other creditors as long as there's one class of creditors that voted favorably on the plan. So the pensioners are one of those classes. The city has also reached agreements with other classes of creditors, some of the bondholders, some holding the debt. So they have the ability to force a plan when we get to the confirmations hearings in August. But it certainly makes it easier for the judge, given that the pensioners approved their own cuts.
All right, the bottom line for all of this and going through this bankruptcy process for Detroit is so that the city can emerge and be viable and eventually start to grow. This week, a report came out basically essentially looking at this plan for the city of Detroit. It came out for the judge. And what did it say about this entire plan?
It said it's possible. It said it's feasible. It said this, of course, was done by the court's appointed expert, Martha Kopatz, who has been meeting with hundreds of people and interviewing and reviewing documents and spreadsheets. And she has a long background in accounting and restructuring. And she looked at what the city's proposing. She looked at the city structures, and she said two things. One, in particular, that the city really needs to think about going forward and how it restructures, right? Because we have the debt restructuring on one side, but then we have to have the ability of the city, the employees, and the systems to put that plan into place. So she said two things. One was that the city really needs a technology upgrade. Let's face it, without modern day accounting and the technology that backs that up, we're going to have some of the same problems before in executing the city services. And the second thing was workforce training. Let's bring the employees up to speed so that they can use that technology so they can put in best practices.
And she also really took a look at the leadership role in the city and saying, you know what, I think you've got some good people in place who will be able to execute this plan.
Yeah, she said that she was impressed with essentially she said she was impressed with the cooperation that's going on. Mayor Duggan's been in office seven and a half months now, by all accounts cooperating with City Council. You see he and Council President Brenda Jones in joint appearances together many, many times. And by all accounts, they're moving forward under the new structure of council by districts with a new mayor, with sort of redefined powers under the emergency manager. Once they get the financial reset, then it's not a totally clean slate, but they have the ability to move forward in ways that some of the elected leaders have not in years past.
All right, so Sandra, give us an idea. What can we expect in the next month or so as court watchers and bankruptcy watchers?
Well, the one thing we know is that the trial is scheduled to begin August 14th, a trial confirmation hearing where the judge hears from the city about the viability of the plan and then hears from creditors who are challenging it. But as we've seen with this bankruptcy, this is really uncharted territory. I mean, even the lawyers involved who have done hundreds of bankruptcy cases around the country over the years still are surprised by some of the things that happen and some of the events that come up, whether it's court filings, challenges, or we also have the outstanding Court of Appeals issues down in Cincinnati challenging both the eligibility, and one of the creditors, a bond insurer, is trying to get at the casino revenue, which is dedicated to one creditor. They would like it split among all of the creditors.
All right, a lot to watch, and we know you'll be covering it. Thanks so much for joining us on MiWeek. I appreciate
Christy.
it, Sandra.
Nice to be here.
So how does this all fit into the bigger picture as bankruptcy plays out? Plus, there is a hold this week on the water shutoffs, but the debate is far from over. We'll pick up there with our MiWeek contributors, Nolan Finley from the Detroit News. Stephen Henderson is off this week, and sitting in is Detroit Free Press columnist Nancy Kaffer. It's always good to see you, Nance. Thanks for coming back for MiWeek.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And holding down the chair while Stephen's out. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in a little bit. We talked a little nuts and bolts bankruptcy with Sandra, but looking at the bigger picture, because I feel, Nolan, that people are starting to look almost beyond the court activity that's going to be happening in August and how the city is now going to move on from here in September.
It's a good time to start looking past, because it does seem as if the bankruptcy is going to wrap up on the time frame that Kevin Orr and the governor laid out, but there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, the bankruptcy didn't solve all our problems, or it's not going to solve all our problems. A lot of things that were identified on the to-do list when the bankruptcy started are still there at the end. Just a couple examples. City Airport, we still didn't find a solution for that. The city charter that ties the hands of our leaders in terms of putting creative solutions in place. That's still written the same way it was written when bankruptcy started. There's still a lot of work to do if this city's going to get where it needs to be.
And I think, Nancy, even following up to the point where that report came out this week and talking about that there has to be a trained workforce in this city for the city to thrive and go forward, and talking about tackling the IT and just some of those issues. And then they said selling City Airport might be one of those viable options as well.
One of Kevin Orr's priorities was to free up some money to invest in IT, which is a huge need. I would argue that the operational restructuring piece is equally as important as the financial restructuring, because if the city doesn't operate more efficiently, if it's not able to collect all of the revenues that it's owed, we know that we have a disgraceful property tax collection rate. If the city can't perform the services that residents need effectively, in such a way that keeps people in the city, then we're right back here financially in just a few years, much quicker than anyone wants to think, unless that operational piece becomes efficient and functional. And that's something that's got to happen, and that's something that has started under Kevin Orr, but Mayor Duggan is really going to be the one who has to carry that forward after bankruptcy.
I was just going to say, so now the political will has to come from Mayor Mike Duggan and also the City Council. And in that report, it was addressed saying, you know what, I think there is the proper leadership in place to make sure that that happens, because now that's the important piece.
Well, we hope so, because as I said, there's a big job left ahead. And if we come out of bankruptcy thinking that's it, that's all we need to do, we are going to be in trouble. Duggan will have a huge job coming out of this thing. Fortunately, he'll have a lot of the more resources because the bankruptcy will free up money for operating the city. Needs to invest a lot of that money into creating efficiencies, government efficiencies. He can't just spend it all, give it all out in contracts or all out in expanding the payroll. He's got to use some of that money to upgrade the city's infrastructure.
Nancy, I want to move forward and talk a little bit about the water situation in the city of Detroit and the fact that the water department has been trying to crack down and collecting past money that it's owed. There was a moratorium they put now for 15 days that they're not going to be doing any more water shutoffs for people who are 60 days behind and owe over $150. Do you believe that situation has been, how do you believe, number one, I guess, how the situation has been handled, and do you believe that this 15-day hold was the way to go right now?
I think the situation's been handled terribly. The department has for decades created a reasonable belief in customers that if they don't pay their bill, that they're not going to lose their water. You've got a city with a 38% poverty rate. Folks are juggling bills. You pay the one they're going to shut off first. You hold off on the one you have some wiggle room to pay. And the department has taught customers that they're not going to lose their water. Then with very little warning, they move to this very aggressive shutoff policy. Yeah, people should pay what they owe. But if the goal is to get people current on their water bills and keep them current on their water bills, just starting to shut people off is not a really good plan. They should have launched a payment assistance program alongside, a well-publicized payment assistance program alongside shutoffs. They should have bought some bus wraps and some billboards and sent people to block club meetings and churches to say, pay your bill or lose your water. It's a pretty simple message that they didn't really communicate. If the goal is just to say, well, shut them off, then they've done that. But if the true goal is to get people current on their bills, they failed. And so stopping this shutoff program is a good thing. They need to really look at how this is playing out in the community before they resume.
Nolan, do you agree?
Yeah, I think they handled it just as badly as they could. There are assistance programs available, but you're dealing with a population that doesn't really know how to access that sort of information, isn't really good at helping themselves. And I think you could have gone into the neighborhoods and said, look, this is coming in a few weeks. Here are the steps you need to take before we get there. Now, some people are never going to do the things you need them to do, but I think they should have accompanied the shutoffs with a much greater information campaign and a lot more assistance to people on how to sign up for help. Now resuming these shutoffs, which they're going to have to do. You can't keep letting 50% of your customers not pay for water. Resuming it's going to be all that much harder.
Well, is 15 days enough, Nancy, to put the pause button on this?
I think 15 days is a start, and I think at the end of 15 days it's a lot easier to say, well, we're going to have to take another 2 weeks or 30 days or whatever than it is to start from nothing. I think this is a good start. I don't think they're going to be able to get done what they need to get done in 2 weeks. They're going to have to extend this period longer. A good place to start would be to look at folks who are getting utilities assistance from nonprofits for other utilities. Get a list of those folks, identify who is also delinquent on their water bill, reach out to those people. Trying to pair people with resources, because the goal is to get people to pay their bills and to keep people connected to water and sewer. No one benefits when we cut people off en masse from water and sewer. This is not a good situation.
In fairness, this isn't as easy as it might be with some other utilities, because the water bills go out to addresses, not necessarily to individuals. And the transient population, you may have one person living in this address and then another address and another over the course of a 6 to 7 month period. You don't really know who's occupying that address. And in a lot of cases, they're going out there and finding, there's nobody there. And water services is continuing to an abandoned home or abandoned building. I talked to a guy the other day who who sold his business or had his business foreclosed on actually, and a neighbor called him and said, hey, the water's been running out the door for 3 months, and he went out there and the meter was off and just a steady stream of water running out the door, and that's happening all over the city.
Well, and that's another excellent point, is that water to abandoned houses, abandoned commercial buildings, all of that should be taken care of before families or individuals are aggressively targeted.
All right, well, we're going to have to leave it there for now. Part of the turnover in the Michigan congressional delegation is happening in the 4th District, which covers parts of mid-Michigan and northern Michigan. Representative Dave Camp is not running again, and this Republican stronghold has several candidates facing off in the primary. But what is really getting the attention here is the role of money in this campaign. Businessman Paul Mitchell has reportedly dumped $1.9 million of his own money into his campaign. Recent polls show he's leading over State Senator John Molinar, who has raised about $500,000. So it's interesting. Is it that you get what you pay for?
Well, I mean, obviously you're getting something for that money. It's not, this is a small market, really. I don't know how you spend the kind of money they're spending there. I mean, it's
TV ads. There are TV ads and radio ads running.
They must be running constantly, because that is a whole lot of money for a congressional race in a basically, a mid-Michigan area, a heavily rural district. That is crazy amount of spending, and I don't see. Molinar's the state lawmaker. I think it's impressive he's raised as much money as he has.
Why?
Well, I mean, where's your financial base in that district? I mean, $500,000 is a lot of money for a state lawmaker to raise, particularly given the amount of time they've had. I mean, Camp left the race sort of at the last minute, and these people have had to scramble.
Nancy, is there a larger thing to talk about here in terms of this is where our political system and our political races are heading, where you just have to amass the largest amount of money, and whoever can do that and blanket the airwaves, then you pretty much, you have it?
I don't think that that's true. I think in the recent election cycle where Ambassador Bridge owner Matty Maroon spent millions of dollars to try to get a statewide, was it a constitutional amendment that would have stopped the construction of the public second span across the Detroit River, he failed. If anyone, it seemed to me like that was a test case for whether or not you can buy a ballot issue. I mean,
and that's interesting because it's an issue versus a person who would use that money to be able to get themselves out there, so you get to know them.
But so I don't think. I mean, I don't think it's always true that the most money wins, but it sure helps. but I don't think it's a bought and sold guarantee. Though there is a insane amount of money. The Free Press reported that he had that Mitchell had added $750,000 to the 1.9 that he's self-funded. So we're talking over $2 million to $2.5 million more than that for
a congressional seat.
For a congressional seat, which is
we've got a Senate race in Michigan. It's going to hit $50 million or more. I mean that.
You think it's really going to hit $50 million?
Yes.
Where is it right now?
Well, it's probably in the 15 to 20 million range, and we haven't even gotten to the general election. I mean, wait until the fall comes. I don't know how there'll be enough TV space available, commercial space available for these candidates to buy. There's so much money being spent on these races. You got a governor's race still that's going to consume a lot of money. I mean, it's incredible. This could be a $300 million election cycle in Michigan.
And you've got folks who are spending all this money because they're supposedly committed to public service and the public good. I mean, one can't help but think of how many, I don't know, delinquent water bills of impoverished people could be paid out of that money if we're really talking about the highest and best use of money in the public good. It seems like that's obviously an issue I care about, but there's a lot of things that can be done with millions of dollars that benefit people in a much more direct way than having this specific person sent to Washington. It's a weird twisting of the idea of where money should be spent and what it should be spent on. And you're right, it does point out the need for some kind of significant campaign finance reform to keep these spending limits in some sort of reasonable parameters.
Is that possible, Nolan? Because I think that a lot of people do flinch when they hear that a Senate race is there's going to be $50 million infused. And then, to Nancy's point, gosh, $25 million could go somewhere and make a serious impact.
Yeah, she's good at spending other people's money. I mean, this is where these people want to put their money. But we've tried campaign finance limits. We've tried money limits. Money in politics is like water. It's going to find its way in. And what we should be concentrating on is transparency. Where the money's coming from, who's giving it, who's spending it. Every time we slap a firm limits on donations, on how much individuals or corporations or whomever can give, you get these shadowy organizations formed to skirt the rules. We've never managed to come up with campaign finance reform that, one, meets constitutional requirements, but also keeps the money out. I think the best we can hope for is more transparency. We don't have enough transparency.
I almost set a record for agreeing with Nolan today.
I was just going to say, you've got to agree with that.
Absolutely. No, we have it's the worst of both worlds, because we have sort of this environment where you can spend just as much money as you possibly can, and there's not transparency that shows where it's coming from. So it's a lose-lose in terms of understanding what forces are at work in the campaigns.
All right.
Good for TV stations.
It's good for TV stations. It's going to be a banner year for local TV come September, I think, for a lot of the political ads.
Really underestimate the relevance of print advertising.
coming from the news and the free press.
Well, maybe they'll run out of commercial space and have to go to print.
We can only hope.
You can only hope. All right, it's time now for headlines. All right, a closer look at some other headlines. The new Ilitch plans for an arena in downtown housing. Orange is the new black, except if you're in jail in Saginaw. And Congressman John Dingell discovers what a Kardashian is. And I have to say, I can't even believe I said the word Kardashian on MiWeek. This is supposed to be a Kim Kardashian free zone.
Well, we'll get horribly disappointed in you right
I know, I'm so disappointed in myself. We'll get to that in just a moment. But I want to start off with the new plans that the Ilitches unveiled for the new arena downtown, and for residential and for retail. Really a project that is massive in scope. I think people are excited about it, Nolan, but it feels like cautious excitement, though.
Well, because we've heard before in Detroit so many times, well, this is going to transform us. We've got this huge project. What I like about this plan and the way the Ilitches are doing it, they're building the arena. We've always been told in the past when stadiums were built, and we've built the Joe Louis Arena in the past, and Ford Field and Comerica Park. We've always been told, and it's going to have all this spin-off benefit. All these other benefits or businesses will cluster around it, and they'll be housing. It doesn't really happen. This time, the Ilitches have committed to building those spin-off benefits along with the arena. They're going to build housing, retail, offices in the same time frame as the arena's going up, and we could be seeing real results there in just 2.5 years. I think it's the most exciting thing I've seen proposed for Detroit since I've been here.
Exciting, but I think when you're talking about building all of that as well around that, Nancy, I think that's where some of the caution comes in, that you're creating so much that you may not have the population to support it.
Well, that is an issue. And as Nolan points out, though, we've been told a lot of times that things are going to happen that don't come to fruition. There's still some details to be nailed down on this deal. I'm not sure all the financing is really quite tied down yet. And yeah, where is the market there? We're seeing some very high occupancy rates in Midtown and downtown. It's very hard to find a place. Rents are going up. And, but at some point, we're going to hit capacity in those areas, and it's hard to tell exactly what that point is going to be.
I think a project like this creates demand. I mean, right now it's particularly on the modest housing end. It's almost impossible to find. And what they're proposing is this sort of mixed development where you'll have some very small, very inexpensive places for young professionals just coming into the market, as well as some move-up places. I mean, I think the market's driving demand for housing in Detroit. Rents are going up. People are looking at, well, can we turn that building into lofts? Can we turn this one into apartments? I think this project's going to drive demand.
Nancy?
I think so, and I think there's a lot I liked about the renderings I saw. For example, one of the big fears had been that there would be, a stadium with a sea of parking around it, which is sort of a killer for development.
Which way we've always done it. Right?
Yeah, right. But when you look at these renderings, it looks great. The parking, it looks like there's some decks. It looks like it's integrated into the surrounding neighborhood, which is exactly the right way to do it if you're really trying to get urban development that works. So I mean, there's a lot to be optimistic about, but like you said, cautiously.
All right, two quick things. No more orange jumpsuits at the Saginaw jail because it's deemed too cool because of pop culture. The show Orange is the New Black. Everyone wants an orange jumpsuit. So now they are changing the uniforms in Saginaw, making them wear black and white stripes, Nolan.
I like the black and white stripes.
Well,
I predict that's going to be the next fashion trend.
black and
Well,
white stripes is the new black.
Saginaw jail, if they were smart, they could market these black and white striped clothing on the internet and make a.
I don't think they want you to be comfortable and happy when you wear them.
Financial problems in Saginaw.
That warden said that he thought it was better to distinguish prisoners because he doesn't really see people wearing stripes. He is not paying attention to ladies' fashions this summer because I recently.
It's all about pattern.
I recently had to put a moratorium on buying striped dresses because I have two.
Not
right?
horizontal
right,
stripes.
that's right.
These are horizontal stripes.
Oh,
All right, and real quick, John Dingell found out the EPA did an automatic tweet about Kim Kardashian. It was like, EPA, are you guys okay? Nancy, you saw this.
Well, the real headline is that someone at the EPA who manages their social media account has their Twitter linked up to a Kim Kardashian phone game they're playing. No, John Dingell is hilarious on Twitter and awesome.
He is, and he's up to it. And that's going to do it for My Week. Thanks so much for joining us. Check it out, myweek.org. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta,